Recording in progress.
Good morning. Welcome to City Griffin Board of Commissioners, September 23 workshop. We're going to start off by a discussion to obtain Board of Commissioners direction on serving high-density power loads specifically related to data centers. Electric Director Jennifer Freeman will address. Welcome and happy day.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I just wanted to kind of continue the conversation. I know that Jim Fuller was here last month and he gave y'all a lot of information.
Good morning.
So I just wanted to follow up, and we just kind of need a direction on which way we want to go as a city as far as, do we want to serve these high-density loads, these data center loads, do we not? I've got some numbers put together and some options for you all that for routes that we could take. We've been talking to two customers. The one on High Falls Road, we've been talking to close to a year. They've completed the high-density load study through MEAG already, so they are very aware of what the costs are to put in the transmission piece, the substation cost, and they were good with that. They're like, move forward. And now they are kind of they've acquired the land, they've got the zoning in place for that one, and now they're kind of looking to us to go to MEAG to look to purchase a strip for the power that they need, so the generation piece of that. So there's two pieces. You've got to put in the transmission, and then you've got to get the generation to serve the load. So I guess what I want to talk about a little bit is that the cost, that they will bear the burden of the cost. So MEAG came back with a high-density study for the transmission piece to put in the substation on that particular piece of property, and I think that their portion of it was like $64 million. They didn't bat an eye. They're like, yep, let's move forward, we'll write a check, that kind of thing. The thing is there's not another data center that's on the MEAG system currently that's up and operational. So we just need to kind of figure out, do we want to do this? Do we want Griffin Power, the city of Griffin as a whole, to serve this high-density load? The other customer that we've been in communication with is the property that's adjacent to the lake Lakes at Green Valley. So it's my understanding that the High Falls Road property, they have an end user. So we've signed the NDA with them, that kind of thing. The 175 acres adjacent to the Lakes at Green Valley, I think that they're still marketing. So they're still just trying to get that load in here. So it's not as far along, I guess is what I should say. So I really wanted to just kind of give you some numbers, give you some options of what we can do. We can always enter into an IPT with another community. Chris County right now is looking for 50 megawatts before a data center for them. And it's not an either or necessarily. We could do a combination of things. We could enter into an IPT with Chris County or any other community that needs the power. And I had Cho run some numbers for us on if we were to enter into an IPT for 5 megawatts and 10 megawatts. So we're long on power, as you all are aware, which is a good position to be in right now. We average around 18 megawatts long on our system. So if we were to enter into an IPT with Chris County based on their numbers, their projections that they are offering for this agreement, that would look like about $3.4 million a year in revenue for the city. That's at 5 megawatts. If we were to go 10, and I only did 5 and 10, I think we could find a happy, medium if we didn't want to do the full 10. But that would look like about 6.8 million in revenue. That's the IPT route, okay, with another community. So I also had them run some numbers if we were to go to market and try to find the strip of power that the company on High Falls Road needs. And so we based it on their ramp schedule. So basically they would need to start out with like 5 megawatts, then ramp up to 70, then 210, and the max at 275. So the numbers are much larger. The thing with the data centers is that money is not the top priority for them. They're willing to write the check. They need the power. They can't operate without the power. So basically they're going out, they're trying to find out who can provide the power, who can get it there the quickest, which is all about the same across the utilities, whether it be Georgia Power, Central Georgia EMC, us. Central Georgia EMC is actually doing a data center power in Cartersville. So it's a whole new world and a whole different level of service that we're accustomed to, basically. But at 5 megawatts, that looks like about $2.8 million a year in revenue. 70 megawatts, that's like 38 million. And 210 megawatts is like $112 million, which could be a game changer for a city. I mean, is huge. The question is, at what risk? So you have to figure out how to write these contracts, and MEAG's very good at that. They're very good at mitigating the risk for the cities. But I mean, I would almost say that it would have to be an upfront cost, like they would have to be willing to pay for, like if we went and got a strip of power for 5 years for 70 megawatts. I mean, I almost feel like you would have to say, okay, we can do that, but you're going to have to pay that as an upfront cost, so that the city's not on the hook for that in any way. The company that is needing the power would need to kind of stroke that check for that power and for that strip.
Can you define the word strip just so?
So strip, it just means that they're going to go to market rather than having like a firm source of power, so like a generating source. That's the key.
We got to buy surplus.
Off the market.
Can we get a commit?
Okay. And so I can't sell directly to the customer, so it would have to be through the city. So we would have to have those contractual, methods in place so that we are covered. So that's just the thing. I mean, I wanted to provide you kind of what the numbers look like if we were to want to be the hosting city, basically. If we want to try to go out and recruit these, data centers and try to entertain them, and we want to serve them, as a city, yes, there's a potential to make a lot of money. The question is, how do we mitigate the risk, so that the city's not on the hook at the end of the day?
When you say risk, what could be the potential risk?
So our system as a whole is 100 megawatts, just shy of 100 megawatts of power, right? So that's our entire system. These companies, this one, which is a smaller data center, is looking for 275 megawatts for that one site. So they're going to have to put in a substation for that at their cost. I mean, they're going to pay for the transmission piece of it, that they are. And then if we go out and we sign a contract to get them 70, 100, 275, that full strip of power from the market, we just need to make sure that we write the contract in a way that we're not on the hook for any of that, that power. We've got to make sure that they are paying an upfront cost on that they're bearing the burden of the cost to put that in. Because at the end of the day,
it has to be a take-or-pay contract.
Yes.
With a solvent company.
Exactly.
And right now, this company, I think it's a startup pretty much. From what I've heard.
Exactly what is it that the data center do? Who do they?
So it's just a storage. It's a bunch of buildings that they have the computer systems in there just storing data, whether it be for Microsoft, Amazon, all of this new AI data. And so it's just a bunch of computers that are in these buildings that store data, but they need a lot of power because they run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they need an excessive amount of power to operate.
You said we have, what you said, we have, what you say, 100?
Our whole system right now is just shy of 100 megawatts. Everything that we serve.
And that's what we own in terms of our generation capacity.
Well, that's what we use. So we're a little excess. So we have about 18 megawatts over what we need, basically.
So what is the negative for us? How could this possibly hurt the power that we have for our customers?
I don't think it would hurt the power that we have for our customers, because they're going to have to put in the transmission piece, and they're going to have to put in the substation that's going to run their center.
What if they default?
Do what?
What if they default?
The question is the default mechanism. What if they go under? What if they become more energy efficient 5 years down the road and they're not using that amount of power? So the key is like Drew said, the take or pay. They're going to have to pay for it up front. So whatever we go out to market to purchase for them, I do believe that we need to write the contract in such a manner that says that they're paying those costs up front, so that the city's not on the hook, because that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money.
So just to clarify, right now, if we have a 100 megawatt system, our budget this year to purchase power is $42.66 million for 100 megawatts. If we have
Yes.
to go purchase 275 on the market, depending on market, it can be more expensive than what we already own. So you're talking times 3.
And we don't need that power for our system.
Right.
So we don't need that abundance of power to serve our customers. So that's just where I'm saying that the customer needs to bear the burden of the cost. And I think that's across the board. That's Georgia Power's using that model, the EMCs are using that model, MEAG is gonna use that model. So it's not a foreign concept. I believe that for this data center power, all utilities are requiring that the customer, the end user, pay the cost up front. Because
What are these companies saying about that piece of it?
at this point, they have not halted in any way. The one company that has done the high density load study through MEAG that have been working with for about a year, that's the High Falls Road property. I mean, they haven't batted an eye. But just like Jim said, they're probably not just talking to us.
Yeah.
They're probably talking to Georgia Power, they're probably talking to EMC. So at the end of the day, you could come down to the table and get ready to sign the contracts. You know, now I will say that probably once they write the check for the transmission piece to the tune of like $64 million, yeah, you could probably know that they're serious at that point.
Right.
You know, because they're not gonna, you know, you can't trade out a substation with another, you know, utility, that kind of thing.
Let me get my little 2 cents in.
Okay.
If we don't get this deal,
Mhm.
we don't lose anything. We still we keep our customers.
Correct.
There is an opportunity to go out and grow and make a whole bunch of money. I don't want us, and I just want us to be careful that we don't miss that picture that we're out here trying to sell something that we can't provide or that's going to put us in some type of bind to our customers trying to win this deal when Georgia Power, somebody else may be, hey, you don't have to pay us up front. And I don't think we need to get into that. I think we need to stay steadfast in what Mr. Whalen said is, we use that phrase again?
Take or pay.
Take or pay. If we can't do take or pay, that's just my position. We can't do take or pay, I wouldn't be in favor of it. But I've been watching this on the local news stations about the data centers, and it's becoming a real hotbed, and it's got kind of political at some places. But if we're able to do this, and we can do the take or pay, I said it right?
Yes.
Take or pay. If we can do that with whatever the staff's recommendation, I'm not a expert on this electrical, and I never can understand what Mr. Fuller is saying unless I read it for myself. I would just suggest that staff make us a recommendation. What you guys think is best would be for me, but as long as that piece of take or pay is in there, and I would go for. I would be. You have my support to do whatever that looks like.
Okay.
And so the Chris County, is that part of?
Yeah, that's the piece I need to understand.
So the Chris County piece is entering into an IPT like we've done forever and ever and ever. So
And IPT is an inter-participant transfer. So
Yes.
we are both MEAG cities, and so we can share our power. And we do that now. We have the contract with Robertsdale.
Robertsdale, and then we have one with
That's not an
Grantville, a
IPT.
small one with Grantville right now.
When we do that, because I heard you say about this one out High Falls Road, will we have to make any upgrades to our system in order to go into this agreement with Chris?
No.
And the
Because that'll
one
be
on
fully
High-
on their
The
system.
one on High Falls, they understand that they would have to, we don't bear any cost for this transmission.
Exactly.
Okay.
Jennifer, when we buy the strip, is that per year, 5 years? What is that contract?
We would have to work that out. So
Okay.
that would have to be an agreement that we're comfortable with, the customer's comfortable with, MEAG's comfortable with. The key with that is that if they do say, you know, if they say, well, we just want it 70 megawatts to get started, they run the risk of in, 5 years when they need more than that, there may not be any power available on the market. With that being said, all of the power providers are putting in new generation plants because of these data centers. So, I mean, I'm sure they're thinking down the road that there will be more capacity available, but you do kind of run that risk. But yes, that would have to be something that would be decided on where the city's comfortable, the customer's comfortable, MEAC's comfortable, you know, on, do you want it to be a 5-year strip? Do you want it to be a 10-year strip? You know, that kind of thing. That would be worked out in the contract.
Just right now where we are with preliminary things, are you all recommending 5, 10, 200? Where are you all thinking that we need to?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I can't answer that question for you, really. I would have to get with the customer to see. Probably it's going to determine kind of what the cost is and where they're comfortable signing, how much they're willing to go to market. Because ultimately, expense-wise, it would be less expensive for them to have that firm power. So for them to have a generation piece where they're just tapping straight into that rather than going to market, because the market can fluctuate. But the customer that I'm speaking with right now, they don't have that option, so they're like, we need to get, you know, we need to move forward, so we want you to reach out to MEAG about a strip of power. They've not come back to me at this point to tell me like how many megawatts they want that to look like, what type of a contractual term they want that to look like. But I agree with you. I think that from a staff's point of view and recommendation for the city, everything needs to be paid up front to mitigate the risk for the city. I don't think that it needs to be a kind of pay-as-you-go. I don't think we could, I don't feel like we could take that risk at all.
No, and I think at this point, the question for you all is, are you interested in us, and Jennifer
Pursuing it.
particularly,
Absolutely.
pursuing this contract and figuring out what those terms are?
Right.
Drew will be involved, the attorneys at MEAG will be involved before anything is signed, but we can't really give you those answers without continuing to talk to them. But they're getting to the point now where if y'all are not interested in that, we need to go ahead and say we're not interested.
No, we're
Yes.
I'm very
Rodney McCord
interested.
is a yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 And so MEAG wants to, whether we go on it alone or whether we go in partnership, MEAG wants the opportunity to provide 275 megawatts of power.
MEAG is going to do whatever the city wants to do. They don't really
Do
take
they
a
have-
stance
do they
one way or the
have-
other.
Is
See,
there
we
that
don't know
much-
that at this point. We don't know if
So
they.
that's the issue is, in terms of is new generation got to be
Right, and so
created.
it may be
you
that
have to
me-
bond
they-
it for 30 or 40 years, and there may be a new technology that comes back, whether it's mini power plants or plasma plants that break off of us after 10 years or 15 years.
Right.
But if we have a contract for
Yeah.
whatever term that
Yeah.
contract is, it doesn't matter what's out there that's new, they still have to purchase it from us.
So I'm a good to go.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're
Good to see.
still good if we were to enter into the IPT like we normally do? Because we could do I mean, it's not an either-or type thing, and the IPT is a pretty secure.
And we're not giving them a discounted rate.
No,
We're-
actually, they're paying a high rate. I'll give you an
Yeah, I mean,
example.
so I've made sure that they're paying
Put that
a
down
rate
there.
that's competitive.
For sure.
And not a giveaway.
So right now, we are under contract with Robertsdale for about 5 megawatts. That ends at the end of this year, and then we're still gonna be under contract with them, but at a lower level. And we budget $755,790 for that contract per year. Whereas for 5 megawatts under the contract with Chris County for the data center, the 5 megawatts is the 3.4 million. So it's significantly higher. It just seems to be that the cost is not a
And
factor,
so
it's who can get the
so
power.
the 10 megawatts at 6.8 million, that's
Correct.
total sales. What is our return on, are we looking at a 10% return, a 20% return?
Well, that is the cost. So you're looking at a monthly payment of around
500.
600, a little less than
Yeah.
$600,000 a month. Yes. They want a 10-year term.
But our profit on that is?
The profit is the 6.8,
So the
minus what we
6.8
already owe for our
6.8 is
power.
the profit.
Do what?
6.8 is the profit.
It's what we will make, yes, but
Okay.
understand that we're already paying for that power, so yes, minus, that cost, but yes.
We're
it is
paying for that
substantial.
power now, even though we're not using it.
Exactly.
We sort of have a take or pay because we
Yes.
want that power reserved
Yep.
for us. So
Okay.
if we ever have an
I mean,
increased
so if we can
load.
get 10 million, sell 10 million megawatts that we have surplus and make profit, I mean, that's a win.
Right, it's a win.
But doing 275 megawatts
Yeah.
may be a little
Yeah,
obnoxious. And
It's just a whole
Okay,
different,
you said that it's Crisp County so Crisp County is doing a data center here on High Falls Road, is that what you said? or
no
where?
ma'am, no ma'am. Crisp County is doing a data center in Crisp County.
Okay, mhm.
And so what they're doing is they're going out to the cities that are excess, and they're trying to get capacity to shore up that 50 megawatts that they need to get them started.
Mhm.
So for us, they've given us like the projections of this is what you would make if you were to enter into an IPT for 5 megawatts, and this is what you would make if you're willing to sign an IPT for 10 megawatts. So Crisp County is a whole different deal. It's in
Okay,
Crisp
so this is a different
County.
deal, separate.
It's just
Yeah,
like
this is a different data center. So you gotta remember, we bought into Vogel Units 3 and 4. Vogel Units 3 and 4 have about 2,200 megawatts of capacity. So all the cities that bought into Vogel and Georgia Power have a certain percentage of that megawatts that are ours. Ours is more than we need.
Yes.
So we know we have excess, but it's sort of like a take or pay contract where we're still paying for it because we want to be able to use it if we need it, but we don't need it. So rather than us continue to pay for it and get no profit, let's sell it to Crisp County for what they need it for in
Okay.
Crisp County.
We got two different projects we're looking at right now.
Yes, it's two different scenarios. So that's what I wanted to give you as options, basically. You
So
know,
the
you have-
data center that, you said something about one being local?
Uh-huh,
Or
the High Falls Road
Uh-huh.
is the one that we've been in communication with. That is a complete separate, that's a data center that would be located here in Griffin, Spalding County.
I heard last week that the FAA had not approved the location that's in the flight path of the new airport.
They're gonna drop that
You know anything
one.
about that?
That's the proposed one on the corner of High Falls Road, or I'm sorry, Georgia 16 and North McDonald Road at that intersection where the tornado went through.
Okay.
They're actually looking at dropping the elevation of that building
Of the building?
down, but grade it down and put it below, so they've got that supposedly
Interesting.
figured out.
Yeah, and this,
That's the same data center
No,
we talked about?
different one.
There's two different.
There's two, okay.
That one, they're still marketing it. They're just kind of marketing that property for data center, so it could be multiple different ones. They don't have an end user at this point.
and there's a third one that I have talked with very briefly, but this is not a problem, or I shouldn't say a problem, this is not something that's going to go away. So we just sort of need
Yes.
some direction as to if you want us to pursue in each of these conversations more specifics, or we're saying we're not doing that, we'll just do IPTs when we're comfortable with that.
So the sure thing is Crisp County. We get that
Yes.
one worked out, we make money, we
Yes.
roll and go.
For sure.
This other one is something that MEAG would have to figure out with us, and we'd have to find other partners or somebody
Correct.
else.
We would be doing like Crisp County
We'd have to go out and
Yeah.
we'd have to go
Yes,
find
just like
those surplus loads
Right.
to make it work.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is
We
a
just
high
kind of
risk,
need
so-
guidance from you guys as to whether you want us to do
Okay.
that or not, or whether we just need to say, we're not as a city going to.
Well, I'm for the 10 megawatt sale to Crisp County.
Okay.
And make that money is a
Okay.
sure thing,
Okay.
without any risk really there unless Mr. Whalen sees something.
Right.
And then, in regards to the local opportunities, that's where we need MEAG's expertise in terms of how do we possibly make it work, but at the same time, don't put our ratepayers at risk
Exactly.
10, 15 years if they go away and we've committed to generation. or
So you would like
more.
for us to continue the conversations with the customers and come up with the terms and that kind of thing, and then, of course, you'd have to approve a contract, anyway.
Right.
So so you would like for us to continue the conversations with these customers? That's good.
Absolutely.
Make
All
it
right.
$6.8 million, that'd be great.
Do what?
Make us $6.8 million.
Okay.
You gotta,
We can do that. We can do that.
Yeah, don't let these other utility companies beat us to the punch.
Exactly. No, I reached out to him yesterday. It's still available. They still need the power. So, yeah, we can start working on that pretty quickly, actually.
Good job.
So, okay. Y'all have any more questions or?
staff good with that?
I'm good.
Yeah, see what it's.
That's what we needed, thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Thank
Excellent,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh, look at the positives today. All right, item 2 is discuss regulations on personal care homes in the city, and I think Ms. O'Connor is handling this.
Yes, I was just
issue.
going to give y'all sort of a history of what got us to here. First of all, back in 2022, if you'll remember, we had a particular issue with a personal care home where we had people locked in the basement. It became to the point where those people have been indicted that were running the personal care home, but it was a situation that we were not familiar with as a city until there was a medical emergency where one of the residents was able to call fire, who noticed that we had a problem. It was at that time, that was January of 2022, that Mr. Jacobs, our former Planning and Development Director, started sort of asking around as to how many were registered in the city by the state, how many needed to be registered in the city, what all sort of our concerns were. And we realized that our ordinance was very, very broad in where you could host a personal care home. Now, this is also where it gets very tricky in regards to definitions with our code versus state law. Personal care home, group home, boarding home, assisted living, nursing facility, all of those are very particular in what the definitions are and what makes them different. So in 2022, we did have a citywide goal of revamping sort of our personal care home ordinance to see how we wanted to better regulate those, because remember, a personal care home is normally where people that cannot care for themselves are living, meaning that they're one of our most either elderly or disabled population, so they're our most vulnerable. So in February of 2023, we were able to bring a second version of the ordinance. We discussed it in January at a workshop, that is section 503E, personal care home for disabled, boarding home, group home, independent home. All of those were updated so that we could have more closely aligned definitions with those of the state, but also provided a greater degree of protection to the residents of personal care, boarding, and group homes. Since that time, we have operated much more efficiently with our personal care homes, group homes, and boarding homes. It didn't really affect the assisted living homes that we have here. That is a very highly regulated state definition and provision. So at this point, I understand that there are some discussions as to maybe it is too strict. And so we want to know from your perspective as policy setters what we need to do to make it what you want it to be.
But we're in line with the state regulations. We follow those guidelines.
To an extent. So the personal care home, I think, is the one that has the definition change.
It's
Do you want
actually
to
only
address?
one word difference from the state. So the regulation and definition for personal care home from the state is any dwelling, whether operated for profit or not, which undertakes through ownership or management to provide or arrange for provision of housing, food service, and one or more personal care services for 2 or more adults who are not related to the owner or administrator by blood or marriage. Our definition says single family dwelling. And the reason why, when we presented that at a workshop, the concern was people operating personal care homes out of commercial areas such as apartments or retrofitting commercial buildings. And so the delineation was made that personal care home would be for homes and would orient towards our single family areas or single family uses or single family buildings, and assisted living would be your commercial use, and we would reserve our commercial buildings that could be used for that use or that definition for assisted living. So that's where we diverge from the state, because the state doesn't really specify. I think it's because zoning is different everywhere. So we have, a low-density residential, high-density residential. Other areas throughout the state, other municipalities and counties throughout the state have different delineations. So they said any dwelling, but the main differentiation is that at the state level, assisted living has a much higher occupancy load, and our zoning, in addition to any, requirements or caps that the state puts into place, that's where you have that difference, basically.
Okay.
That I think that they intentionally left it as any dwelling so that they weren't tying the hands of local governments.
Okay.
But the only difference is one word, which is single family, one
Right.
hyphenated word.
Right. And so far, we've been able to, for the most part, enforce those regulations, our own.
Yeah, what we put into place was essentially a special use permit across the board. So any area or any zone where you're going to try to have a personal care home, they have to come to you for a special use permit. We've had several. We used to get calls constantly, and we had a couple of proposals for some in apartments prior to putting this into place. And we were able to pretty much tell them, now we're regulating this, and it's decreased a lot of the calls from people that, in my opinion, were less serious about the service that they were going to provide, because now we have it
a certain, a cap on the number of people that you can have per bedroom, more specific requirements. We specifically say that you have to have a license from the state if one is required for the type of work that you were doing. You have to have an OTC, you have to have a business registered, because that was one of the other big concerns during that process, is when things went wrong, if the police department or fire had to respond, some of these places were not even registered as businesses with the state. And I don't mean even just as a personal care home, I mean they had no official business. So there was nobody to even, there was no Secretary of State regulation, there was no Department of Community Health regulation. So that the process, in my opinion, has really cut down on people who were just wanting to just make money and not really serve people. I mean, if you're saying that you're going to have 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment who are non-ambulatory and you're going to be on the 2nd floor of an apartment complex, that's a big concern. And it's cut down on those types of requests. Okay. And has put us more in line with what the state requires with regard to, the size.
And then, and the difference on assisted living centers is that state requires a minimum 5,000 square feet.
Yes, among other things. The state actually has
regulations that they require.
The state has, and we completely defer to the state requirement in our definition for assisted living, by stating meets the regulational requirements for community health or behavioral health, because I think some of them.
It must be licensed by the Department of Community Health.
Yes.
And so unfortunately, the Department of Community Health, we have since learned, does not give you a square footage. What they say is that to be an assisted living facility, you have to have 25 people. 25 people, they say you can only have 2 per bedroom, and your bedrooms have to be a certain size, so you can sort of get to the fact that it has to be 5,000 square feet, but they don't actually come out and tell you that.
Yeah, you have to do the calculation.
Yeah.
So, in the instant of our resident that we approved the assisted living for, and she's since found out, after she got everything up and ready to go, that she has to have 5,000 square feet. She met all other regulations. So what is the remedy? What would be the remedy for that?
So as of right now, we do not have any use that is permitted in our UDC for the type of business that she wants to operate. So when she initially applied for her special use permit, she did it as a personal care home, and Mr. Jacobs pointed out we would have to deny you automatically because this is a commercial building. It's not a single-family dwelling, so you would automatically not meet the definition, and we would have to recommend denial. So we encourage you to consider assisted living, and we notified her at that point in time that, and this is a direct quote from Mr. Jacobs' email, that the state may impose additional requirements or standards, regardless of whether or not a state license is required. Here's our parameters, or here's our limitations. And we gave that to her. She said, let's proceed with a special use permit for assisted living. And we granted our assisted living with a couple of conditions. One, that you have to be able to get the license from the State Department of Community Health, and you have to have your fire inspection done and approved. So she was able to get the fire inspection done, but she did not speak with the state about what those additional requirements were until after that was completed. So the position right now, or the concern right now, is that because she cannot, we have approved her, and she has met everything with regard to what our requirements are, but she cannot get her state license. The state will not approve her for a license with her building being that small. Under our current code, the remedy is to essentially add to her building. That would be the only ability to be able to have assisted living. From staff's perspective, it's our understanding that you guys wanted, or some of you wanted, to have an update to personal care so that she could operate a personal care home. But that would require an amendment to our code, because right now it's a commercial building and we would not be able to do that. From staff's perspective, my concern is that if we open it up to commercial use, we're taking away that safeguard that we had for people who wanted to put them in apartment complexes or retrofit a commercial building that may have, it may be a heavy traffic area, it may be an area where, you have other businesses going on around them that are not conducive for their care or don't provide the necessary kind of communal living arrangement for their care. So that's what would happen. The solution would be to amend our code. And the question for you all today is what would you like that to look like?
Y'all know what the situation is. What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is is the same that it was in January of 2023 when we did the amendment. I not looking at one specific application or one specific property, I truly believe that this is the best thing for the citizens who are needing assistance from a personal care perspective. I think we put these parameters into place, for that reason. So my recommendation is that we don't do an amendment, and that she consider other options. But I also recognize that if that's not the will of the board, I don't necessarily have a recommendation for how to adjust it because I'm not sure what you want that to look like. So whatever change we make for an amendment for this particular person could have an impact on the other citizens, and so we just kind of need to know how broad or limited you would like that adjustment to the code to be.
Is the current building one story?
It is one story.
Could
It is an
you-
old church building.
So couldn't you just put in the regulations that it can only be on a one story?
At that point, we would still open it up to buildings that are commercial use. So
Right.
if we took out single family and just said dwelling, then any property or any structure that could be put to a commercial use could be used as a personal care home.
But
That
it would
in-
still have to meet state regulations.
The state would regulate the size, but you could have an auto body shop, for example, retrofitted into a personal care home, and that would allow for that. So if we change it to take out single family, and we said it can only, you must have one story, or they can only live on one story, we're cutting out single family dwellings that have 2 floors. Because there are some that do have their single-family dwellings and they have 2 floors, and they're ambulatory people who may have mental disabilities would go upstairs, and then the people on the first floor could be people who are non-ambulatory and need assistance in that manner. But if we limited it to just 1 floor, at that point, we're cutting off the 2-story houses, and we're opening up the door for any building that can be put to a commercial use that is in a residential area. And that is pretty broad, because as you guys know, one of our historical issues in this city is that we have a lot of areas that were previously zoned commercial or were adopted and changed as one-off scenarios where you may have a commercial use that was allowed for a body shop that happens to be in a residential area and they're grandfathered in that way. It would still be able to be put to a commercial use, and that, I mean, that's the issue. You're leaving it open for any building to be retrofitted or utilized that way, even if it's in the middle of a commercial business center. I mean, you would potentially open it up to areas in downtown where we have it's high traffic, and you have people who do need, assistance feeding themselves and grooming themselves, who would be in a major central business district that could potentially put them in danger. So that's why we originally limited it in that way, and we left the door open for assisted living, because we also, you don't want a concentration where every commercial property, you've got 5 all in one area, and they're all just of varying sizes. You've got 4 that are personal care and 1 that's assisted living, and the people for assisted living are having a higher, brick and mortar cost. At that point, everybody would just be personal care, which has significantly less regulation than
Approximately
assisted
how
living.
many applications have we had in the past year for assisted living or personal care home?
For personal care and assisted living, I think 5 or so. I need to confirm that, but we've had a significant number. I know on one night where that one was approved, I believe you guys heard 2 in one night.
So my personal opinion is I have sympathy for the individual. I've toured her facility, but in regards to the challenges that we have faced with other personal care homes, we set these regulations and safeguards in place to make sure we don't have situations that happen like in Hillendale, and for us to be able to regulate it. So I would rather keep our personal care home and figure out how this individual wants to create an assisted living center, try to make sure that she can enlarge the facility or get a waiver from the state.
She's already asked that.
I know she has, but I mean, but again, that's,
I,
assisted living is a state-regulated issue, not a Griffin-regulated issue. So that's just my personal
I hear what you're
opinion on
saying,
this.
but there's a great need for these type of
Yes, ma'am.
facilities in the area, in my area in particular. And I think Ms. Sherman tried to do everything possible in order to follow the rules. And she came before this board, and we gave her our go-ahead and had her to spend $50,000-$60,000 on the sprinkler and all of that. And it is the building, the church building, is in a residential. It sits on a resident. It's residential. It's not commercial. That's residential.
Yes, ma'am. It's only the commercial use is the concern because it's not a single-family dwelling. So if that's the area where we need to make the change, that's what we're asking is, do you want it to be a building with a commercial use in a single-family area? Do you want it to be do you want to allow personal care homes in commercial zones that have single-family residences in them? So that's really the question is, if we have a consensus to do that, how broad?
It is zone residential, and to me, it could be a simple fix. It's zone residential, so she should be able to do that in the residential area. That was the understanding all along, that it was residential. She's tried to follow all of the rules. I don't have a problem. It's in my district. I don't have a problem with it. There's a great need, and she's done, basically, they've done what they were supposed to do. So what I would like to see is us be able to help her to be able to open her business and do what it is she needs to do.
Yes, ma'am, and that's why we're here before you today, because the only way that we can allow her to do that is if we make an amendment to the code. And
So what would the amendment say? What would the amendment be?
that's the question. I can draft it based on what you guys would like to see. So if you'd just like me to remove single family from the definition, we could remove single family, but I'm just letting you know from staff's perspective, there is a risk in doing that we would open the door to other groups. Now, you could handle that when the special use permit comes before you to, say you believe that it's different or it's distinct, but, and this is just, and this is me just as an attorney, not just in-house attorney, but an attorney, zoning, and it's unlike any other area of our ordinance, where sometimes we may have something in an ordinance that if we don't enforce it, it doesn't become it's not that big of a deal if it's not enforced. When it comes to zoning, your zoning rights are not just the rights of her to use her property, it's the rights of the neighbors to live next to a building that they believe can only be used in a certain manner. So with zoning, you have to be very careful because all of the neighbors and the people who are in that neighborhood also have a property right that they could sue the city for to say you should not have allowed this. And it's not just where the court could say the city is going to have to owe someone money. It's where they could tell her after she makes more of an investment in the property that she can no longer operate in that manner. And that's the risk, is that we go forward. If we were to go forward as is, that if it gets challenged, another court could make the decision for you, and she would have a claim against the city for allowing it.
Okay, if she gets if we amend the ordinance.
Yeah, then that would go away. That risk, that legal risk would go away.
Okay.
The question is, what would you like to see? And we didn't want to
Kelsey, currently, we allow a special use. You all approve a special use permit, and you only look at that if it's in pretty much a residential zoning district. So right now, a personal care home is allowed by special use in low density A, B, and C, medium density, high density A and B, neighborhood business district, the planned commercial district, and the conservation subdivision. So you could potentially go in here, and the definition currently says a residential use or facility located in a single family dwelling. You could say a residential use or facility located in a residential district. You'd actually be removing planned commercial district, which I don't know why it's there anyway.
Because we have so many single family houses that are in commercial districts.
Then
And we
they can
didn't want to cut those off.
Okay.
Because of how, and that's historically, because we have a little bit of a messy zoning, we have a significant number of residential places that are in commercial zoned areas. And we were also trying to be mindful that the reason why our code was so broad to begin with was because we were challenged by the DOJ previously. And so we sort of wrote a blank check, and that blank check is how we got people living in a basement without any regulation. So we even said at that time that there may need to be adjustments that are made, and this is that adjustment. But we could limit it just to residential. I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the DOJ stuff to make sure that wouldn't create an issue. That's why we wanted to allow it in all, and then we would
Well, it's
limit
not
it to
now.
single family. Well, it's allowed by special use permit.
Not in all of them, just the ones I read. LDR,
Okay.
MDR, HDR, and PCD.
We kept it out of central business,
No CBD?
yeah.
Mm-mm.
And I think we had, that one we could
You
justify
could take
with
all
it
the residential, you could take all the commercial out.
out.
Well,
Yeah.
if you do that and you've got a single-family residential in a PCD and a planned commercial district because it's grandfathered and has been there for 50, 60, 80 years, they won't be able to go there if you want to do it by residential district.
But is that I mean, that would take away our issue in regards to personal care homes being put in commercial districts.
But think about, you had one on South Fifth Street, a little bitty South Fifth Street, that, that's actually PCD, I think.
And
So all those
it's-
houses would be out, even though they are single-family dwellings.
It would create the opposite problem that we have right now, where right now we have a commercial building, or a commercial building in a residential zoned area. That would create a situation where you could have a residential building in a commercially zoned area that would get denied. So it would create the exact problem, but for the opposite
Yeah.
districts.
Could
For
you, could you give a special use for someone though in a commercial?
You require
district?
special use for any of
Any
them
of
right
them.
now.
I understand.
So
But
you
in
could
terms
leave-
of,
So
you can-
we couldn't leave her like, she's, I think her intent now is to ask for a personal care home. We can't grant her a special use.
No, not right now, because your code doesn't allow it. Well, as Kelsey said, you could, staff's recommendation would have to be denial because it does not meet code. So we cannot tell you that you can do it. You can do it, and then if somebody sues, you're going to lose.
If
Because
somebody
it's
sues us for,
for not abiding by your own ordinance. You set the ordinance, you're not abiding by it, you
Okay.
get sued, you lose, and could be individually liable because you've been told you can't do it. And you do it anyway.
Then they could still shut her down.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
for,
she's still-
because she would have an injunction that says you can't operate here. And that's the risk, that's bad for her, it's bad for the city, it's, I mean,
Bad for y'all.
when you say they who could shut her down?
a court could shut her down because they would be in the position of interpreting our zoning ordinance at that point. So if someone sued, if a neighbor sued and said, she's operating a personal care home and I have a right to not live next to a personal care home that is not in a single family dwelling, if they sue, the court would look at it and say, I'm going to give an injunction, you can no longer operate. And then we're getting sued by her as well because we told her that she could operate and she relied on us and invested money in that property to her detriment based on that.
Okay,
So
long story short, what we need to do.
I think that the simplest thing, and you'd have to be careful when you review the special use permits to do this, but if we were to take out single family and just have purely the state's definition, which says any dwelling, at that point, I mean, you would, on special use, you'd have to make the determination if it is in a commercial building, would their proposal make sense here?
Okay.
That would be, but my concern is we have to be consistent because, as we've talked about with zoning trainings, they are the most ripe for challenge. And if you are granting one to someone, who's in this commercial building in a church and then you're denying it to someone else, we do not have to state the reason, but it does open us up to legal challenge if we are not consistently enforcing that. But that would be the easiest thing so that you could consider it on a case-by-case basis. But to me, case-by-case is very dangerous when it comes to anything with regard to a zoning code.
Let me ask you a question. And I heard what I thought was a solution from Ms. O'Connor when she said if it's a commercial building in a in a residential zone area, if we take out, putting personal care homes in a commercial district, I think that may be the solution. Then you shut it down so quickly, because I heard you say something else, that if we'll create the opposite
Yes.
problem.
Yeah, if you had a single-family home, which we have received some, I believe, where we've had an application for a special use permit for a personal care home in a single-family dwelling
That's
that
right.
happened to be in a commercial zone.
But we've also got commercial buildings that have being used as personal care homes.
As of right now, how it's currently written, no, it would have to be assisted living, and that's the issue.
Well, for instance, if you drive down West Solomon Street or West Poplar Street, a lot of that is zoned Planned Commercial District, PCD.
right.
Right now, you allow a special use to come to you all to decide if you want a personal care home there, because think about what's on West Solomon Street, single-family houses. So it is the appropriate place to have a personal care home. So if we change this to just say in a residential zoning district, like Kelsey said, you're sort of doing the opposite to whoever buys that house. Well, you can't put one there even though it is a home. So if you, I mean, maybe the easiest way to say is located in a zoning district that allows for special use per table 7.3.
That's the answer. That's it, right?
But that's why, and that's what I was saying, if you take out the single family at that point.
But dwelling is still, it's not defined well enough.
Yeah.
I don't consider a church a dwelling. So I still think Ms. Sherman's out.
Yeah,
So I think you put it in a.
There's no
in a-
definition for dwelling
In a
under
zoning
state.
district.
So you make
that is-
everything a special use permit to have a personal care home.
I don't like
In
that.
the particular districts which you now allow. So located in a zoning district as approved in table 7.3, which is already in your code, you don't have to change the table, you're just changing the definition in the personal
And
care home.
that way we can, if we have a situation where it's in a commercial, say if it's in downtown Griffin, and it's not compatible, we can deny it based on.
It's not allowed in CBD currently.
No,
Central Business
okay,
District
so
is
we're good
out
there. So we're good there.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you can make that work, then we can defend it in court.
It will depend on your decisions
I
and how you
understand. It's
reach
still
those decisions. But the actual ordinance itself on its face would be valid.
So,
As long as we enforce consistently, you wouldn't have a problem.
yeah, so, first of all, it's so good having all these lawyers in here to confuse us.
Sorry.
But, so the first thing is, right now, the way, in order for us to do it, number one, she would have to add to a building. That's to keep it as an assisted living, to make it 5,000 square. That's not feasible for her because she's spent a lot of money on it. I'm agreeing with this ward on that. Number two, if we attempt to approve her the way it is right now, we are all liable. If you support this in order to help her, then you become yourself liable. Third is, we need to make a change to what Ms. O'Connor just said a second ago when she was talking fast, and you have to cite some code, something she said.
Located in a zoning district as allowed in table 7.3, which you have already adopted.
That's what I was trying to say, right
Okay.
there.
And then in terms of
And
square, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that will be
In a permitted
a remedy in my eyes, and that will allow her to move forward. And I don't want to say, because y'all gonna mess my words up anyway. So is that it?
Yes,
Yes.
and I think we could,
And do we have safeguards in regards to square footage, how many persons per square foot?
that
Yes,
will
that's
remain the
all
same,
already
that's
there.
So
already
that's
there.
already in our
That's
code,
That's
so
already
we're already
there.
good there.
Yes.
They have to register it on an annual basis. Do we have to do fire inspections
Yes.
like a normal business? So everything, so we don't have to worry about a situation where people are being locked in rooms
Well,
because
no,
we'll have.
the main thing that concerns me is getting sued and putting the city, making the city liable, or making ourselves liable by doing something that is not legal. If what Ms. O'Connor is saying now is the legal way to do it, then I would want to move forward with that, and that will allow her to do it. And it just, we changing a few words in our code, but before this, unless we change the code, then we would putting ourselves at risk.
Yes.
So that's, I thank you ladies and Mr. Whalen for that.
And I also want to protect the residents that
Right,
are in the
that's the whole-
home so
that's
that
the
they
whole
don't
thing.
get abused. I mean, there's got to be these
That's it.
safeguards so that people are taken care of.
Yeah, let me start off. That's the most important
Yes, sir.
part. So I want
And it protects Ms. Sherman as
myself
well.
first. Yeah.
It protects her as well, because
Yeah.
that's, I would hate if
Yeah, we
you
don't wanna
carte
do
blanche let her
anything.
do it, and then she gets shut down by another court.
Exactly.
That's also an unfair position for her and any resident that she might have to be in. And we have talked about trying to find a way around the chart, so I think we could just say where it's zoning is allowed, as allowed by zoning, and that way we don't have to reference the chart itself. But I think that would solve the issue. She is gonna have to come back before you for a special use permit,
After we change
for personal
ordinance.
care, for that to be reviewed under that particular code. And she would still have to get any state licensing for that as well.
Do we have 2 readings in terms of the ordinance change?
There would be one reading before you and one before P and Z. But it does have to be posted and for a longer period of time and advertised in the newspaper, because it's an amendment to our zoning code.
Yeah, it would probably be the 1st of November before we could get the actual code updated, and then she would need to apply after that. She cannot submit an application before y'all have approved the change.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
District 6, Ryan McCord, would like to see the change per stated by Ms. O'Connor.
Okay, and we got consensus with everybody?
Yes.
Outstanding. Good job, team. Woo-hoo!
Thank you for all of your
Another
input.
2
That
victories
always
in a
makes me feel
row.
better.
Yeah.
Y'all doing it this morning.
All right, discuss the proposed 2025 millage rate. City Manager Jessica O'Connor will address.
All right, this should be short and sweet today. Maybe, so. There we go. All right, as y'all normally see, we look through our historical millage rates because I think this is just a testament to what all you've been able to do financially. 2015, you were at 7.889 mils. This year, the proposed rollback rate is 5.699. So you have been able to drop the millage rate by 2.2 over the last 10 years, which is great for our citizens. In 2024, our net digest was 929,875,139. Now it is at 945,533,342. You can see the reassessments and other digest changes that increase the actual digest. So, as we all know, if you tax at the current millage rate because that digest has increased, it would be considered a tax increase. So instead, they have proposed that we take the rollback rate of 5.699 mils. At that rate, if we collect 90%, at the current rate, if we collect 90%, we have budgeted $5,595,000 total. I went ahead and broke that out. I normally do not do that for y'all. I wanted you to see how that is broken out. So our general fund is at 4.7 million. Our TADs are what sort of increased that property tax budget at 384,000 for TAD 1, which is our downtown TAD, and then 511,000 for our TAD 2, which is out back Kroger. Our FY25 budget was 5.372. So that one is a little bit, we've increased there as well. At current rate, we would barely meet what we've budgeted if we collected 100%. We're about on 90% collections right now, so we're at $5 million, a little over $5 million. If we take the rollback rate, it's a little bit less. What we've come to understand, and especially with Deborah's help, is that we can't really delineate when property taxes are being paid for past years as well. So you may see on your financials tonight that we've collected more than what it's showing for this current year, but a lot of times some of that is past taxes. So it sort of seems to keep up with itself on a rolling average, but we don't have a way for Ms. Hollins to sort of delineate which one is which. Either way, because of our increase in loss, insurance premium taxes, and other revenue that we have, we are comfortable with recommending that we adopt the rollback rate this year.
So we got that recommendation. So any questions before we move on? And that'll be voted on tonight.
There will be a public
public
hearing tonight
hearing
as
tonight.
required by law. Since we are recommending the rollback rate, we do only have to have one. And then if you are wanting to take that rate, then we can actually vote tonight and have that adopted.
No comments from me. I can go along with it.
Everybody good? Any questions?
All right.
All right, congratulations. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, anything else before we go into executive
I'd
session?
like to make a motion that we consider.
Oh, if I can do one thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry. For those that have not yet met Chief Strickland, which I think most of you have.
Yay.
Chief Strickland is here today. So I just
New
wanted
guy.
to tell him thank you.
The
for
new and
coming back.
improved
The new and improved Chief Griffin? All right. Yes, and he will be the guest speaker at the Exchange Club today. So we are
Awesome.
headed there after this, and we'll start sort of letting him go out and meet with all our different clubs and let them get to know him again.
Wonderful. Perfect.
All right.
All right. So I motion to consider an executive session pursuant to OCGA Section 501421 for the purpose of consulting and meeting with legal counsel pertaining to pending or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions brought or to be brought by or against the agency or any officer or employer, or in which the agency or any officer or employer may be directly involved in pursuant to OCGA Section 50143B1B for the purpose of authorizing negotiations to purchase, dispose of, or lease property. Motion to go into executive session. Ms. McCord?
Yes, I'm on.
Ms. McCord, second by Ms. Ward. All in favor, please rise and join us. Thank you, staff, for all your hard work. See y'all later.
Appreciate that, Steph.
Good to see you, Larry. There's rain tomorrow.
Oh, rain, hallelujah.
For several days.
I don't think so. He might be.
Yay!
I can leave it. Chief going into executive session.
Want to come with me? How you doing, gal? Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm old, but I'm okay. Thank you.
I can't wait to see you around.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Good to see
ma'am.
you. I want to see you. Yes, I'm see Miss Rose. How you doing, Miss Rose?
Doing just fine.
Good to see you. Yes, ma'am. Glad to be back.
Glad you're here.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I came by the house yesterday.
Take Michael back. His office.
Well, today they got me moved. So,
It was tight, but we'll put 79 in.
Christopher? Chief? Where'd Christopher go? Blocker? He left? Well, he's supposed to go in executive session. Christopher Blocker. Can I impose on you to go get him? Oh, no, Ronnie left.
maybe he forgot he was supposed to be in the bar. He'll get you.
And it was like, he says, he's dismissed. It was like I had an American flag, and I had like something else, something like a political. So that was how the defense attorney purged me when he was a bumper stickers.
Recording stopped.
All in favor, leave, and let's go out here.
Well, tonight, it'll be short and sweet, right?
Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Ward, a motion, second by Commissioner Murray. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Who made the motion? Ward.
Ward, Murray, second.
Well, tonight, it'll be short and sweet, right?
Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Ward, a motion, second by Commissioner Murray. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Who made the motion?
Ward.
Ward, Murray, second.